Hi, I'm Rick Wollum, and I'm here at the Livingston Federation of Fly Fishers Library. And tonight I'd like to tie a Rhycophila, Rhycophilia, however you would like to pronounce it, caddis larva that can be quite effective on the Yellowstone, the Madison, and several rivers in the area. I'm taking a 8/0 uni-thread olive dun and starting just behind the eye, and I'm sort of using that as a measure. About 3/4 of the body is one color, and then the head is a different color. So I'm sort of starting the thread where the head will begin, just as a measurement. I wrap that just beyond the point of the hook, breaking off the thread, and then taking hairline. Several companies sell this, but it's called Scudback, and this is the 1/8 inch, and I'm using a tan. And I'm using this material as a backing on the fly, sort of as you would a Scudback. This is just to give it a little tonal change in color. Trimming that material. Oops. Making a pinch, tying the material down, kind of manipulating it to have it the way I like it, trapping the scud back down. And I take a little bit of a fine gauge gold wire and use that as my rib. Tying that rib in, making sure it's nice and secure. Getting that trapped down. I'm taking a olive colored dubbing. I like to use beaver because it's a very fine. This fly is best tied in 16, 18, and 20 to imitate the natural. And I'm sort of using a medium colored olive for the abdomen. I'm plucking out any of the guard hairs that is in the beaver, and then spinning that onto the thread. And I'm sort of starting out with a fine taper and then building it up as I get toward the head of the fly. Kind of spreading that the desired length I want, and then I can keep adding as I go. But I'm trying to build up a slight taper to the body. I'm sort of pinching that and rolling that material between my index finger and thumb, and then wrapping that forward. Again, building a taper as I go toward the head of the fly. Add a little bit more dubbing. Again, pinching that and rolling it between my index finger and thumb. And building that taper up. If you look at these larvae or pupa in the stream, they have a sort of a different color to their back than they do their underside. And that's where the scudback can really come in handy. And it also gives a little bit of a sheen to the body. continuing to build that abdomen up. I think it's easier to add materials than to remove materials, so I'll start out pretty fine. I'm just going in with my scissors and somewhat cleaning it up a little bit. There's some guard hairs that are sticking out. I take the scud back and pull it forward, and I stretch it quite a bit because I don't want it to go all the way down across the body. I'm just sort of having a strip go right over the back. Trapping that down with my thread, giving a couple of good binding wraps. Then we'll go in with my gold wire. Come forward, trapping that down. I haven't cut the scud back yet, because in the past I've done this and I have cut it, and then by putting pressure on this rib, it will actually pull through the thread wraps, and that's not good. So then I trap down my ribbing, give it a couple of good binding wraps, then I take that scud back and I actually fold it back over itself, giving a couple of good thread wraps there, and that'll lock it in place. That's going to make it not pull out. Winding forward. Instead of, especially on thread that's fine and wire that's real fine, instead of trimming it with your scissors, you don't always get a real clean trim. You can take your fingers and just pull it against itself, and that'll break it right off. Now I'm going to take a few pheasant tail fibers and use those for legs, and I want to do 2 on each side, so I'm coming in with my scissors, trimming a couple off. I like to even up the tips. I'll kind of measure against the body, trap them down, a couple of wraps with the thread, kind of hold them into position. And again, I can just bind that pheasant tail down and then break it off. And that ensures that it's a good clean break as opposed to a cut that will leave a little excess material. Again, I'm measuring the tips, making sure now on the near side, kind of measure them against the other that are already bound onto the hook and wrap those in. And winding back, I can take my fingers and just sort of push them into position. Take a quick wrap back over the pheasant tail fibers and then break them off. Taking another sort of a rust-colored dubbing. Again, I like to use the beaver. It's very easy to work with. Kind of pulling a couple of the guard hairs out of it. Spinning that onto the thread and building up a sort of bulky head to it. Again, this fly is, I think, best tied in a 16, 18, or 20. I like to use the Tiemco 200R hook for this particular fly. I think it makes it look just like the natural. And then wind a small head onto the front. I've tied this one a little short, but you'll get the idea. And that's just a good free swimming caddis larva, caddis pupa, and they're, again, found in quite a few of our streams, Yellowstone, any of our freestone streams around here, the Madison. And that's a good imitation.